You're listening to Murder Not Murdering with Erin,
And Autumn,
a true crime podcast about murder and murdering.
but we are not murderers.
All right, everybody, we're back at Murder Not Murdering with Erin, and
Autumn.
that's us. We've got tons of true crime news this week.
That's right. We do. It's pretty cool to hear about old cases that are popping back up and getting solved.
Solved by DNA. I mean, if you are someone who is heavy into true crime, then you probably already know, but they just named a new victim in Utah to Ted Bundy. Her name was Laura Ann Amy, and they have confirmed through DNA that she was murdered by Ted Bundy. It's crazy to me that we're still finding, and I think there's even more. I think there's plenty more that he was not telling people. And there's loads of
100%.
there's so many people that I know right now that they're wondering, if they are victims or suspected victims. And thank God we had DNA. There we go. And again, DNA helping solve all the crimes. And there was another one that popped up this week that a girl went missing when she was 13 years old in 1984, and she was found alive. Now, they haven't released any details of that, so we don't have any information on it. But that's just another kind of crazy true crime moment. Who knows what happened? But she's alive and she is well, is what they say.
That's so wild because we were just talking about people being found potentially like JC Dugar and
Yes.
whatnot from my case last week.
From last week.
That's why I tell the unsolved cases.
It is why. I mean, that's just crazy. I'm, and also awesome. She gets to be reunited with her family. And, again, we don't know the circumstances yet of her kidnapping and where she's been all this time, but just amazing and great work on the investigators that were able to find her.
I think that's so incredible.
I do too. And I mean, I can't imagine what it's like to come out of a situation like that and to have to adjust to, your life that you've been living for the last 40 years is now combined, now going into the world again with your previous family and all of that stuff. It's just a lot. I can't imagine.
Me either, truthfully.
But on the Ted Bundy thing, I think that there's going to be more. I think they're going to be able to start putting more and more people together on that.
I agree, especially since they have the technology of the minute DNA now. That opens the door for so many things.
So many. I am just blown away. I don't have any DNA in my case this week, but I am doing one that was requested by you.
By me? Okay.
So
I'm excited.
I am going to be doing a case that was requested by you, which means I am encroaching in your time frame. I'm not doing an old time crime. I am doing something that happened just a couple years ago that is local. So get ready for that. But you won't be able to hear it because Autumn's going first this week.
You'll just have to wait in suspense like I will.
Or skip Autumn's case and go
Oh,
right to mine.
rude.
Just
Rude.
kidding.
I mean,
Just kidding.
You feel free to skip it, but I don't think you'll want to. It's pretty interesting.
I mean, for either of ours, it happens, right? Sometimes content-wise, people choose which ones to listen to, but we have all of a sudden picked up in our episodes. Thank you so much for all of our listeners lately. We've been getting more and more listens, and we so appreciate it. Keep sharing, keep letting people know, and who knows, maybe we'll solve a crime by putting these cases out there. You just never know.
That is honestly my dream come true, and one of the reasons why I'm obsessed with Unsolved Mysteries. So
yeah, Autumn's going to do it. She's going
when
to
he says,
solve a mystery.
perhaps it's you. I'm like, oh my gosh, it probably is me. I know all of this.
He's been speaking to you this
He
entire
has.
time.
He has. I'm up for it. He
Yeah.
has.
I mean, truly, it would be Autumn's dream to just, I mean, you watch enough of it. I feel like Autumn would be at the grocery store and be like, oh, that's so and so. I
Mm-hmm.
just know it.
I'm, yep, you're
And you
right.
got to call the hotline. You got to tell them, here's my tip. I saw so and so at the store. I mean, we've seen it happen, right? People have solved lots of
Mm-hmm.
cases this way. Unsolved mysteries. I mean, I wonder what the statistic is on how many cases Unsolved Mysteries has solved from the show.
Girl, I'm going to find out.
You better find out. That would be a great happy fact for next week. Are you looking it up right now?
Possibly, but I don't think that's the right answer. So that'll be my happy fact for next week.
I just think there's got to be so many that have come from that. I mean, it was a while back. I did an episode that had unsolved mysteries in it. And you happen to do one that was the whole reason why Unsolved Mysteries exists on that same episode. But mine was solved because a woman who was friends with this other woman was like, I think your husband is this killer. And that's how they ended up solving it. So you just never know who's going to see something and go, oh my God, I saw that on Unsolved Mysteries. That's why we're big fans of it.
Big fans.
I am drinking a Gatorade in solidarity of Autumn. I also am hungover, so thank you,
I am
Gatorade.
not, but I still love Gatorade.
I'm actually drinking Gator Light.
I did see that. I'm drinking a Gatorade Zero. Actually, I have it right next to me.
Are you really?
I swear to you.
You are a stand for Gatorade.
I am.
I don't usually
the
like it
best.
because it's not for me, but I needed it today. Today it was necessary for me.
I don't get a lot of drinks in life because I am diabetic. So I
Yeah.
like to have the fun stuff like the Diet Root Beer, Diet Coke, Gatorade Zero. Those are like my go-tos.
Yeah, I'm not I don't drink any soda. I sound so boring. I don't drink soda, I just don't like it.
I love soda so much. Although Erin used to love soda. We used to fill
But
Martinelli
yeah,
sparkling ciders full of root beer and drink it.
out the bottle like that. And
Mm-hmm.
call C89 radio and request songs.
Yep. Mostly Justin Timberlake.
Yeah, some In Sync. Oh, speaking of true crimes, Justin Timberlake got a DUI.
That was painful to watch. He was so polite to them. But dude, Justin, you were fucked up.
Yeah, and shut your mouth, bro. Stop talking
Right?
to them.
Like, stop talking. He was like, man, these tests are really hard.
Oh my God, it was too much.
Did you watch it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Like,
mean, it was
man,
everywhere,
these
right?
tests are really hard. I'm like, Justin.
It was trending like crazy, so of course I saw that, and Tiger
gonna
Woods just
ruin-
did, like,
It's
a
gonna
couple
ruin
days
the
ago.
world tour. It's gonna
Yeah.
ruin the world tour. This like young kids like, what world, what? And he's
What are
like,
you talking about?
I'm Justin Timberlake. He's like, can I see your ID? I don't think the kid even registered who
think
Justin
I would-
Timberlake was.
I think I would be like, if I was a celebrity and I got pulled over, I think it would be really weird I would just hand over my license. I wouldn't say who I was. You know what I mean?
I
'Cause
don't think
remember
the kid even knew who he was, even when Justin said who he was.
Probably not. His
Because
mom's probably a fan.
Probably because the kid had no reaction to it. Like, not
remember-
that whole world tour thing makes sense now. Nothing. I think he thought he was like mentally ill.
I don't know. And then there was that whole thing with Reese Witherspoon years ago, and she was like,
Yeah.
"Do you know
Don't
who
you know
I am?"
who I am?
Woo, that's a fun
Her and
one.
her ex-husband, but husband at the time, Jim Toth.
Oh my goodness,
That
craziness.
was crazy.
Yeah. Well,
This
we-
case does not have to do with a DUI.
or celebrities, or does it?
You don't know that yet.
I can't wait to find out. So, Autumn is going to tell us her case, and then I'm going to be up next with mine. My case that Autumn asked for.
I am excited.
I know.
Anyway, here we go. I am going to get into it now. So shut up.
Get into it, Autumn.
Okay. This is the girl in the canyon. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm ready. I'm in the canyon right now.
Okay, good. Don't fall though. Anyway.
Are you giving it away already?
No, she didn't fall. I was just saying that.
She was pushed.
You never know. We're
You
going to
never
find
know.
out.
Well, we're going to find out. Let's do this.
Yes. This is the girl in the canyon. There is a place just outside of Pullman, Washington, where the land doesn't feel like it belongs to anything. It drops off suddenly into a canyon carved by time and water, quiet in a way that almost feels deliberate. The kind of quiet where sound doesn't echo, it just disappears. If you stood there in the early spring of 1972, you wouldn't have known that anything had ever happened. You wouldn't have known that just months earlier, someone had driven out there, far enough to feel unseen, far enough to believe they wouldn't be followed. And you definitely wouldn't have known that hidden in that stillness was what remained of a 21-year-old girl who had simply not come home. This is the story of Joyce LePage. Some cases announce themselves. They arrive with urgency, sirens, headlines, witnesses who can point to a moment and say, that's when everything changed. And then there are the cases that don't. The ones that unfold so softly, so gradually, that by the time anyone realizes something is wrong, the truth is already out of reach. Joyce's case is one of those, because nothing about her life suggested that it would end this way, and nothing about her disappearance made immediate sense. Before she became a case file, Joyce was, in every way that matters, someone who was building a life. She grew up in Pasco, Washington, on a family farm, surrounded by siblings, routines, and the kind of structure that tends to shape people into something steady, something dependable. Joyce was the second born of 5 children. She was athletic and artistic. Her family would later describe her in ways that feel small at first, but stay with you the longer you think about them. She was thoughtful, careful with her words, the kind of person who didn't rush through conversations, who chose how she expressed things with intention. There's a story, one that feels almost too ordinary to matter, and yet somehow says everything. She once described a Christmas gift as delicious. Not exciting, not surprising, delicious. Like she experienced things fully, like she felt moments linger just a little longer than most people do. By the time she was 18, Joyce had already done something that most people never attempt. She earned her private pilot's license, which tells you something, not just about her intelligence, but about her confidence, her independence, her willingness to step into spaces that required focus and control. She wasn't drifting through life. She was moving toward something. By 1971, she was a student at Washington State University, an English literature major. 3 years into a path that likely would have taken her into teaching, or writing, or something equally thoughtful and deliberate. That summer, she stayed on campus in an apartment, taking classes, keeping a routine, spending time in Stevens Hall, a dormitory that, at the time, was partially under construction. The kind of place where you could sit at a piano or study alone and feel like the rest of the world had just paused for a moment. And maybe that's what makes what happened next feel so out of place, because nothing about Joyce's life suggested that she would be involved in any sort of thing like this. And yet, that's exactly what found her. Sometime around July 22nd, 1971, Joyce LePage disappeared. Not in a way that left behind a clear moment. No one saw her being forced into a car. No one heard a scream. There was no single event that marked the exact second everything changed. Instead, there was just an absence. At first, it didn't register as something serious. And this part of the story is difficult because it's so human. She wasn't reported missing right away. Days passed, then more days, nearly 10, before her family realized that something wasn't just delayed, it was terribly wrong. Her father had expected her home the weekend of July 22nd for the boat races, but she never showed up. And by the time that realization settled in, whatever had happened to Joyce had already happened. When her father contacted authorities in early August, the investigation began. But it began in a space where time had already created distance. Distance from witnesses, from memory, from the truth. And then there were the details that didn't quite make sense. Her car was found parked just blocks away, not abandoned, not hidden, just there, with a parking ticket on it, issued days after she had last been seen. Which means that while Joyce was missing, life had continued around her. People had walked past her car, not knowing, not stopping, not realizing that something had already gone terribly wrong. And then there was Stevens Hall. Before Joyce was even reported missing, police had already been inside that building because of something strange, something that at the time didn't seem connected. The WSU police were investigating vandalism at Stevens Hall. A section of green carpet had been cut out and taken, removed completely. No clear explanation, no immediate reason. But inside that same building, they would later connect it to Joyce, to her belongings, to the last place she may have been. And suddenly, that missing piece of carpet didn't feel random anymore. Months passed. Summer turned into fall, fall into winter, and still nothing. Until 9 months later, on April 16th, 1972, in a remote stretch of land known as the Wawaway Canyon, just miles outside of Pullman, everything changed. Her remains were found. They would be found by people searching the canyon for garnets and came upon her skeletal remains. But by then, time had done what time always does. It had taken clarity with it. What investigators discovered was both devastating and revealing in a way that only raised more questions. Her body had been wrapped carefully in a piece of green carpet, the same kind of carpet that had been removed from Stevens Hall. And inside that, a blanket. There's something deeply unsettling about that detail because it suggests time, control, deliberation. This was not someone acting in panic. This was someone who had the ability to slow down, to think, to conceal. Her remains were largely skeletal, but even then, there were signs. Marks on her ribs, consistent with possible stab wounds. It was enough for investigators to believe that this had been a violent death, a personal one. But not enough to tell the full story. Because by the time she was found, too much had already been lost. And this is where the case begins to live in two different places at once. There's what we know, and then there's everything we don't. We know she disappeared in late July. We know she wasn't reported missing for nearly 10 days. We know her remains were found months later, miles away, hidden in a canyon. But everything in between is missing. Where was she killed? Not Stevens Hall. There was no blood found where the carpet had been removed. So she was moved, transported, taken somewhere else, and then brought back into the story only when it was time to hide her. Whoever did this knew the area, knew where to go, knew how far was far enough. And that narrows things, but not enough. Because over the years, there have been theories, suspects, even names that carry weight. At one point, Ted Bundy was considered.
Oh, we just brought him
Mhm.
up.
We did, which was so when you sent me that yesterday, I was like, "Oh my god, hopefully she's not talking about the case I'm about to talk about."
For real, because you're doing my timeline now.
Mhm. At one point, it was Ted Bundy was considered. According to an article for King 5, some have speculated about serial killer Ted Bundy's possible involvement. Bundy was active during that time period, and Joyce fit the profile of his victims. However, investigators found no evidence placing him in Pullman. Ted Bundy is an easy target. He's dead now. He can't talk, said Sheriff Myers. So we could just say, hey, it was Ted Bundy. We knew. And a lot of what Ted Bundy did, it fits his MO, I mean. She fit the type. He liked girls of that age. He liked college campuses. However, Myers said investigators reached out to former Ted Bundy investigators and Bundy's former attorney in Washington state. Both of those people said, hey, it's likely there's just nothing that places him there. But it is likely that he could have, yeah, but there's a lot of documentation in here. And we don't really have anything in these cases that really put Ted Bundy here, Sheriff Myers said. Bundy was asked by investigators to indicate all the places he had committed crimes, and Pullman, Washington was never mentioned. But like everything else in this case, we don't know if that's true. So, no charges, no confirmation, no ending. Joyce LePage was 21 years old. She was supposed to graduate, to build a life that extended far beyond a quiet summer on a college campus. Instead, her story stops here, in fragments, in questions, in a canyon that doesn't give anything back. And maybe that's what stays with you. Not just what happened to her, but how easily it all slipped past the moment where it could have been stopped. 10 days, a missing piece of carpet, a car parked like nothing was wrong, and somewhere in all of that silence is the truth, still waiting. There's a realization in cases like this where everything that could have been done has been done, where investigators have followed every lead they had, where time has taken what it's going to take. And all that's left is a space where the answer should be. Joyce LePage has now been gone longer than she was ever here. And yet, her story hasn't disappeared. Because stories like this don't belong to the past, they stay present. They live in the unanswered questions, in the quiet persistence of the people who still remember, and in the possibility, however small, that something could still change. Someone has carried this for over 50 years, whether it's a memory, a detail that didn't seem important at the time, or the truth itself. And time does something strange to secrets. It doesn't erase them, it wears them down. What felt impossible to say decades ago doesn't always feel the same now. And that's where this case still exists, not just in what happened in 1971, but in what could still happen next. Because even now, this case isn't closed, and Joyce is still waiting, not just to be remembered, but to be understood. If you know anything about the death of Joyce LePage, no matter how small it may seem, you can contact local authorities in Whitman County, Washington. Even the smallest detail could be the one that changes everything. According to an article by King 5, Bruce LePage, her brother, has offered a $100,000 reward split
Wow.
between, it's like gigantic,
Yeah.
split between probable cause and an arrest. Now, 54 years after his sister's death, he continues to hope someone will come forward. Maybe it'll rattle someone's mind that might know some information on what happened, he said. Or the individual that did this deed, maybe they would step up and do the right thing and confess. Joyce's parents died without ever knowing what happened to their daughter. Bruce built a memorial swing bench near the river in her honor, at the spot where she planned to watch the boat races the weekend she disappeared. We all know she's in a great place now, he said. Sheriff Myers remains committed to solving the case. We really want to solve this, Myers said, because after all this time, answers still matter. My sources were Olivia Harnack, Who Was Joyce LePage and What Really Happened, Whitman County and Franklin County Historical Reporting, and King 5 News.
Oh, you know what? I find that that case comes up every couple
Mm-hmm.
years. It's
Yes.
definitely one that sticks with people, and people have
Mm-hmm.
been really wanting to get some answers. And like I said, like I see that one come up like in different blogs and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
every couple years. I think the last time I saw it was November, I think, even this year, where they're talking about how it's been
Yeah, they were 50
54
years,
years.
4 years. Mm-hmm.
It's just crazy. And, like you said, you never know what detail might let us know who the killer was or what actually happened.
Mm-hmm. I mean, a lot of speculation has been that she had to have known her killer because it was summer school. It wasn't normal time.
Yeah.
And she was hanging out in the dormitory that was being remodeled. So it wasn't being lived in. Someone would have had to known her pattern that she liked to go there and sit and read and be in the quiet
Mhm.
because it'd be very, I mean, I'm a UW fan. WSU and me are not the best of friends, but I know the campus. I've been there before, and they're my mortal enemies, but I am not holding that against Joyce in any way, shape, or
Sure.
form. But it's a very, very small town. It's a
Yeah,
very,
no, it
very
is.
small town. So you can imagine during the summer when people are not there anyway, and this was in the 70s. I
Yeah.
mean, the chances of just some random is very slim.
And her name's been brought up quite often on
Mhm.
Ted Bundy blogs and
Quite
such.
often, but honestly, now that they have that DNA, I'm hopeful that they can rule it out 100%
Yeah.
because the way that they were doing it previously was like what the detective said that the lawyer and all of them were like, "That's not likely XYZ because he said he wasn't there." Well, Ted Bundy was a fucking liar, so who
Yeah.
knows where he really was, right?
Yeah. I mean, truly. Well,
Hopefully it gets solved.
I hope it gets solved. That yeah. I mean, I hope they all get solved, right? It's
Oh,
m
yeah. That would be, like,
I love a solved
amazing.
mystery, but
Same, same.
so It's interesting that you did a Washington case because I'm doing a Washington case as well. Like many of you know, and those that don't are new to our podcast, Autumn and I both are in Washington State. So we like to cover local cases as much as possible, but sometimes it's difficult because there's very little information or, details are really tough to find sometimes on local cases that are not well known. My case, though, is quite well known, has been done on 48 Hours. It's been done on multiple podcasts. And Autumn asked me if I would do this case, quite a while back, but I was backlogged. So I'm getting to it now, especially because last Tuesday was Trans Day of Visibility. And as many of you know, I am very close to a lot of folks in the queer community, and I have trans friends. And I think even more than before, it's really important to talk about. I'm talking about a case, but I think it's really important to talk about the things that are going on right now, especially with the trans community, how they're really being hunted down right now across the country and their rights are being taken away. There was a new law passed in Ohio today that bars people from wearing makeup if it doesn't match their genitalia. I mean, that's really where we're at. It's just
Mhm.
disgusting to me. Um and I think we all need to make sure to speak up for those that, it might not be safe for them to speak up. So, I'm going to be doing the case of Nikki Kuhnhausen today. And here we go. So it just happened last Tuesday, Trans Day of Visibility, a day meant to celebrate life, to celebrate people who must be seen, people who have existed forever. But visibility is complicated, especially in these uncertain times, because for some people, being seen is what puts them in danger. Today's story is about that tension, visibility and violence, joy and loss. And for us, it's local. Just across the river from Portland in Vancouver, Washington. Nikki was 17 years old. She was loved, visible, and is now gone. Before anything else, we're going to start with who Nikki was. Because too often in cases involving transgender victims, the story becomes about how they died or the statistics that they have been added to, and not how they lived. Nikki Kuhnhausen was, by every account, fully herself. Her mother, Lisa Woods, said Nikki was just Nikki. That sounds simple, but it isn't. Because what Lisa meant was there was no confusion, no hesitation, no phase. From a young age, Nikki knew exactly who she was. Lisa remembered a moment when Nikki was a child. She borrowed a blonde wig from a babysitter. She put it on, and something clicked. There was an ease about her. Another moment was when she broke her arm and she proudly picked out a pink cast. Her brothers argued about it, but Lisa did not. She said she picked that color. It's her broken arm. And that's how it was. No questioning. Just let her be Nikki. And that was the tone for her life. By middle school, that clarity extended everywhere. Lisa noted she decided she was going to be Nikki all the time, not just at home, not just with friends, to be everywhere authentically. And that decision to live openly is what Trans Day of Visibility is about. But Nikki wasn't waiting for a day. She was there and she was ready to be seen. Nikki's friends describe her the same way over and over again: bright, funny. One friend said that she was lively and always high energy. Another said everything was a smile. She loved makeup and she was great at it. And that led to a goal. Now, I'm going to preface this because at the time, we did not know what we know about Nicki Minaj. Okay. If you don't know, she's become super mega. She has also become very anti trans, which is crazy because she recorded a song with Grammy award winning trans woman, Kim Petras. And I'm just going to let you know ahead of time, we didn't know the things that we know about Nicki Minaj now, right?
Mhm.
So Nikki was really excited. She loved Nicki Minaj. She did Snapchat videos and all different videos on social media with
Right.
Nicki's songs. She
And
loved her.
Nikki's stuff just recently came out, so there'd be no
It
way
did.
for yeah.
Exactly. So I just want to let people know that's where we're at with Nicki Minaj. But she loved her, and she really hoped that one day her goal was to be able to do hair and makeup for Nicki Minaj. So that was like always something that she wanted to do. And she worked at it. I mean, her makeup looks flawless in photos. Lisa, her mother, said cheerleaders loved the way that she did their makeup. She was doing the makeup for all the cheerleaders. I mean, she was
Oh,
talented.
yeah.
But more importantly, it shows you that Nikki was accepted and that she had a community of friends. She was trusted, admired, and wanted around. She wasn't isolated. She had a life, and it was just beginning. Her mom said that along with the popularity came some pushback, leading Nikki to have to stand up for herself. And for a time, she missed some school. Her mom could tell her daughter wasn't acting like herself. She had started using drugs, as many do when they're navigating a young life, experimenting. Now, on June 6th, 2019, Nikki was at a friend's apartment in Vancouver. It starts the way so many modern cases do nowadays, with a message on an app, on Snapchat, a casual connection. At some point in the early morning, Nikki left the apartment. She told her friends she was going to meet someone. That someone was 25-year-old David Bogdanov. At first, nothing seemed wrong. Her friends didn't hear from her, but sometimes that wasn't uncommon. Her friend Ariel Fox said she lost her phone or something. Classic Nikki move. But her mother knew, and she knew immediately something was very wrong. She spoke to Nikki every day. They were close. She said over and over, I knew something had happened. And that instinct could not be denied. It sits in the pit of your stomach, a shift, a feeling. Lisa described what happened next. And it's one of those details that stays with you. She needed to feel close to her daughter. So that first night, she took Nikki's sweatshirt, turned it into a pillowcase, and slept with it. Something to hold on to. Anything that still felt like her daughter. Sorry, that gets me a little bit.
That's really sad.
A missing persons report was filed. Flyers went up across Vancouver, across Portland. Friends, family, and the whole community searched. Days passed, then weeks. And underneath all of it, there was a fear. Because as one advocate said, when trans people go missing, they're usually found deceased. And that's the reality that this case sits inside. Months later, investigators would start to piece it all together. Nikki met David Bogdanov. They got into his car. There was sexual contact. And then, at some point, Nikki disclosed that she was transgender. The investigators questioned David as he was the last person that saw Nikki alive. He tells them that they met, that they got into his car, that Nikki tells him she's transgender. And then this is when David tells the police that he was not okay with that he finds it disgusting, that he says he's uncomfortable and against LGBTQIA based on his religious beliefs. He said he told her as much, kicked her out of the car, and then he drove to work and didn't give it much more thought. What happened next is not speculation. It's what the prosecutors argued, what the jury ultimately believed. He didn't leave Nikki. He got angry. She fought back, and then he strangled her with a phone charger cord. The medical examiner confirmed the cause of death was strangulation. And then, afterward, he drove her body to a remote area near Larch Mountain, and he disposed of her body. He left her there. And then he left the country. And that sequence matters. It's action, it's intentional. December 2019, a hiker found a skull. Police were called. Search teams moved in. The investigators combed through the missing persons cases. They find jewelry and clothing, and they look and see on Nikki's social media they start putting together the items that were found most likely belonged to Nikki Kuhnhausen. Before they notified the family, they needed forensic confirmation, and eventually dental records confirmed it was Nikki. Her mother, Lisa, described the moment she was told. I fell to my knees and started screaming. Your heart just breaks knowing that, your heart just breaks knowing that the light was gone and that finality was setting in. The loss and grief heavy. Now, trying to make an attempt to make sense of it. Police moved quickly. They knew Nikki's history, that the last person that saw her was David. They received his cell phone records, and it placed him at Larch Mountain, not at work like he claimed when he first spoke to them. He was questioned and arrested, charged with second-degree murder and a hate crime. And that second charge would become central to the investigation and the case. At trial, the defense argued something that has been used many times before. They said he panicked. They said he felt threatened. They said he believed Nikki was reaching for his weapon that was a hidden gun between the seats. This is what's often called the trans panic defense, the idea that discovering someone is transgender can provoke a violent reaction, that it explains it, that it softens it. Advocates have pushed back on this for years. The Gender Justice League said the defense attempts to blame victims for their own murders, because that's exactly what it does. It shifts the focus from the act to the identity of the person who was harmed. Prosecutors rejected that narrative completely. They pointed to the timeline, the strangulation. Hair was ripped out and knotted up in the phone cord. The knots were tied so tightly to make sure that Nikki would not see another day. It was only 4 inches around at the point that he had had it pulled. Then there was the crude disposal of the body, fleeing the country. They argued this wasn't fear, this was a decision. According to courtroom reporting, prosecutors emphasized that David Bogdanov acted because of Nikki's gender identity. That phrase is what turns a murder into a hate crime. The trial took place in 2021. Inside the courtroom, 2 realities collided. One tried to justify, and the other refused to. Nikki's presence was constant in photos and testimony, in the words of her family who were there every day. It was 2021, so few people in the courtroom because it was COVID times. Nikki's friends and family wore pink masks, sitting not far from the man who had murdered her. This case was being watched closely because it represented something larger. David took the stand and told his side of the story. He said that he and Nikki had begun hooking up in the backseat of his car when he found out that Nikki was transgender. He became tearful when describing the sexual contact between them. He said he pushed Nikki away from him and cursed her to get out of his car. He explained that he was humiliated when he figured out he was having sexual contact with someone who was born male. He said he would have been shunned if his family would have found out. Then he testified that Nikki had started fighting against him after he pushed her into the passenger door of the car. And he says she reached towards the front seat where he had tucked in his gun. To me, that sounds like he threw her up against the door and she was trying to fight because she didn't know what was going to happen next, or she might have been trying to flee. He describes attempting to pull her away from the gun, which he said he always kept loaded. He also said that he made Nikki aware that he carried a gun so, quote, she wouldn't freak out, and that he had a concealed carry permit for it. He described fearing for his life if she would have gotten her hand on the weapon. But again, it was hidden between the seats. We don't know that she even knew that it was in that spot. They struggled. Nikki elbowed him and clawed at his face. He said that he couldn't get a good grip on the jacket she was wearing, so he wrapped the phone charger cord around her shoulder area. During the struggle, The cord slipped up around her neck, he said. And once she stopped moving, he said he released the phone charger. He had thought that Nikki had just passed out. He said he tried to check for a pulse and she wasn't breathing. He told the jury that he had feared calling the police because they wouldn't believe him since he had been drinking. He also offered Nikki, who again was 17 years old at the time, vodka as well.
Cool.
Yeah. He said that he had been out all night and that there were drugs in his car, which he claimed were Nikki's. I don't know if I believe that. Might have been hers, might have been his, but whatever. He said he was panicked and scared, and he decided that he needed to get rid of the body. Now, as a normal human being, nobody panics and decides to get rid of bodies.
Never.
I'm sorry, that's just never an excuse.
No, never.
He said he didn't mean to kill Nikki and that he wanted her out of the car and wanted to stop her from grabbing his gun. David then said that he had been shooting at Larch Mountain before. So he drove there, pushed Nikki's body out of the car down a steep hillside, and left. Later that day, he booked a one-way flight to Kyiv, Ukraine. He said he was an emotional wreck and needed to get away. He stayed in Ukraine for about 6 weeks before returning back to the U.S. Again, normal person, you don't dispose of bodies or leave the country. He also testified that he had a friend get rid of his car. He said he doesn't know where the car is and he no longer had that gun. Just disposing of evidence. I mean, that's what he's doing. This is calculated at this point. I don't think he planned to kill her. I think that he thought he was going to hook up with her. He got mad and he killed her, disposed of her body, didn't want to get caught, got rid of his car and gun, leaves the country. I mean, come on now. David claimed that Nikki didn't attempt to get out of the car when he began shouting at her. But again, he told us he threw her into the car door. Yet, Senior Deputy Prosecutor Colin Hayes asked him if she'd be able to try to attempt to get out of the car when he was strangling her. He didn't give her a chance to get out before he attacked. Hayes also noticed their difference in size. David stands 6 feet 2 inches tall and weighing about 200 pounds. Nikki was 5 feet 8 inches tall and about 110 pounds. He grossly outmatched her. Hayes asked David about his interviews with the police, in which he never told them anything about self-defense or violence with Nikki. David acknowledged that he also didn't tell police about dumping her body or that she had been using drugs in his car like he claimed in his testimony. So lied to them, didn't tell them these facts, all of a sudden makes them up as he's getting closer to his court dates. So now it's August 2021. The jury deliberates for 3 days. It took them a long time to come to this conclusion. Then they come back. Everyone was paralyzed waiting, not knowing if the verdict was going to be a hung jury as it was taking so long to get to a resolution. Finally, they notify the judge. It's unanimous. Guilty. Second-degree murder and guilty of a hate crime. And that second part is important because it's a rejection of the idea that Nikki's identity had anything to do with excusing what had happened to her. It says, no, this wasn't confusion, not fear, not panic. This was a deliberate act of violence motivated by bias. At sentencing, the courtroom shifts. Nikki's mother, Lisa, speaks. She looks at the man who killed her daughter and says, "You took my child from me." And then she talked about Nikki's life, her future, and what was lost. Before sentencing, Clark County Superior Court Judge David Gregerson became emotional, saying he was struck by the darkness of this case, that identity ended in a particularly cruel spasm of violence on June 6, 2019, and it was followed by the most undignified form of final disposition of her body. Then, by repeated lies and obfuscation. He sentenced David Bogdanov to the maximum amount, 19 and a half years. Surrounded by family and friends, Nikki's mom spoke outside the courthouse after the verdict. She said, "You know, she was just a baby. She was just a teenager, and he took her life, and he got the maximum, and that is what he deserved." She continued saying she was loved, and she was wanted, and she was important. It's a reminder that Lisa is talking about a person, a daughter who should still be here. Before the trial even concluded, a change was already happening. In Washington state, lawmakers were considering a bill to ban the use of panic defenses. Nikki's case became central to that conversation because it showed in real time how identity could be used against someone even after death. In March of 2020, the Nikki Kuhnhausen Act, House Bill 1687, passed, making Washington the 10th state to enact such a ban. It prohibits defendants from using the victim's gender identity or sexual orientation as justification for violent acts. Governor Jay Inslee signed it. He said, "The bill brings us closer to telling the LGBT community that they are valued in Washington and closer to honoring Nikki and the positive strides she made on behalf of the trans community." It's often called Nikki's Law. Senator Annette Cleveland said, "By all accounts, Nikki would be alive today if it not for a homophobia-based assault on her life, and I suspect so would others who have been similarly victimized." This all means that in the future, what was argued in the courtroom won't be allowed. Diminished capacity defenses are normally due to a mental state of mind, not that somebody was surprised and panicked. Senator Derek Stanford said, "I believe that the policy in this bill is very simple. We're just saying that learning someone's sexual orientation or gender identity does not justify committing acts of violence against them. It's strange that we would have to have a law that says this," he added. "But we have seen this reasoning used as defense to try to justify, mitigate, or excuse the most horrendous acts of violence. And when that defense is used, it is a way of saying that those lives have no value." The Gender Justice League said bias cannot be reframed as fear, and that's Nikki's legacy. Trans Day of Visibility is about being seen, but Nikki was already visible. She lived openly, authentically, and without apology. And that's what visibility looks like: existing. Visibility should not be dangerous. Nikki Kuhnhausen should be here. And that's the truth at the center of all of this. Sorry, I'm getting emotional.
It's really sad. It's like really, really sad.
It's not about the trial. It's not about the law. It's about her. Her laugh, her creativity, her future, and the life she was building at just 17 years old. When we say her name, we're not just remembering how she died. God. We're insisting that her life mattered, that her identity was never a justification for violence, just the simple right to exist. Sorry. My sources were CBS News, Nikki Kuhnhausen, murder case highlights need for a new law, CBS News, the Nikki Kuhnhausen case photo archives, NBC News, man found guilty of hate crime in murder of transgender teen, the Human Rights Campaign, the Gender Justice League, Oregon Public Broadcasting trial and verdict cover, KATU News, articles in the Columbian, Washington State Legislature, 2020 law banning panic defense, and lastly, Como 4 News and the show 48 Hours. Sorry, that was hard for me to get through. It's tragic, but also this man completely murdered her and tried to pretend that it was just a panic. I panicked, murdered her. And again, saying that he threw her up against the door and then she tried to fight back. He didn't give her an opportunity to even open the door,
No.
and
He
then
was there sh ugh, it's just so
the
I'm
sequence
so glad you told the story.
the sequence of events too that happened, that he fled the country, that I
I
mean,
mean, innocent people don't flee countries.
and he lied to the police. You know, he was trying to cover up this, and I think that he found out about the trans panic defense, and that's what he was trying to use
Mhm.
to hopefully get out of this. And I just think I'm so grateful for the Nikki's Act, that was passed here in Washington, and I'm so proud to know that that is
Mhm.
part of what we have going on here, because that's just never an excuse
Never.
because of someone's gender identity. And I mean, I feel like we just were talking about this not that long ago with, actor Shia LaBeouf. Right? He got into a fight in New Orleans and he said, "I'm uncomfortable around gay people." And that's why he reacted the way he did.
Mhm.
It's just not an excuse. And at this day
No.
and age, why do we care what someone else's life is? Like, why do you care if someone else is transgender or if someone else is gay or any spectrum of LGBTQIA plus?
Why is it anyone's business?
It's not. And that's the frustrating thing. And like I was mentioning, it's very scary across the country right now. And I know several trans friends that I've talked to recently, and they're scared. They're scared in their jobs. They're scared being out and about at night. I mean, and we're in a very Seattle is a very, very liberal city, and it's still not safe. It's really unfortunate that we're going backwards in this when you can look at history and trans people have existed since the beginning of time. I mean, they've had
Yes.
different names for it.
Right.
There's two spirits in the Native American culture. There is Maori culture that acknowledges trans people from very long time ago. I mean, there's just so many instances where this has been around forever. So
I'm of the strong sense that you're born this way, that
exactly.
you're not the I mean, we could go on and on about this, but
Sure.
it doesn't matter who you love, what you choose, how you identify, no one deserves to be murdered.
No, and it's almost detrimental for people to hide who they are.
Oh,
So
it's not almost, it 100% is, like,
it is, yeah.
I mean, why? Even why do they have to? They should be able to live their authentic life. What is somebody's preference harming anyone else? It's
Exactly. And
not.
they talk about I've heard a lot of people with the bathroom thing. It's like
I mean, that
people
is ridiculous.
people are just trying to use the bathroom, okay? If
I'm
and the
sorry,
thing is
no
if
predator's like, "That's the spot. People are gonna be shitting. I need to be in there."
well, and I heard someone say that, if a man wants to walk in to a women's bathroom and, kidnap someone or look under the stall or whatever, they can do that, without having to put on a wig
Yes, they
or
don't have to
anything like
pretend
that.
to
They
be
don't
a
need to
woman,
pretend
nothing.
to
They can
live
walk
to
in.
live as a woman,
Yes. That
you
there's
know?
no I mean, that's fucking stupid. Like, that's not even an argument. Like,
And it
people
and
who
it
say
is
it is ignorant.
And it is dangerous when when people have transitioned for them to use the wrong bathroom to how they identify. Because imagine if you have a trans man with a beard, walking into the ladies' room, you would feel uncomfortable with that. You'd be like, this is a man. There's no need that a man needs to be in here. You know
Honestly,
what I
I
mean?
don't even give a shit. I'm being honest here. Like gender neutral bathrooms, I could give a fuck. Like
I,
co-ed
I
bathrooms,
just,
I could give a fuck. Like if you want to pee and I can like pee, like I don't care.
I just don't understand this, like, panic, especially when trans people make up literally 1% of the population. This
Well, it's because they're different. People are afraid of what they don't understand. And sometimes I feel like they're afraid because they secretly are having those feelings and they're taking it out because they're ashamed of it.
I mean, could very well be. I mean, we've
I
seen a
mean,
lot of
Christy
killers with
Nome
that.
and her effing husband. I
I
mean, are you
know.
kidding me right now? I mean, no one likes this bitch, but like,
No.
are you kidding me right now? Like the way that she had such hatred and her husband's cross dressing. And first of all, his nipples were going every which way. Like, what the fuck?
And I will say no kink shaming here, but
No.
it's the hypocritical way of all
Yes,
of
it's the
that that
hypocrite.
just makes you go, "Okay."
The
You know what
I'm
I
better
mean?
than you, but your husband's in the bathroom wearing fucking fake boobs.
Yeah. I mean,
Which is
I
fine. If you
just
wanna wear them, wear them, but I mean, like, the way she was acting, was fucking
yes.
criminal.
It's just It's just crazy how there's this hyperfixation on trans people right now, and I just think people wanna live their lives, and they just wanna live comfortably and
And
authentically,
authentically.
and they shouldn't have to explain anything to anyone. I also hate that people are constantly asking about, "What
None of their
surgeries have you
business.
done?" It's nobody's
None of their
business.
business.
So, if you are one of our trans listeners, we see you, we support you. That is where we stand on that.
This is a safe space.
I don't think that anybody didn't know that before, but now you do. So, we are very open and accepting of everyone at this podcast, unless you're a psychotic killer or mega.
Yeah, then we're coming for you.
Yeah. Anyways, that was my case this week. I'm glad you passed it on to me. It was very hard though for me to write and get through. And
I know, but I felt like you were the right person to bring it.
watching the videos too, like on the 40 episode of 48 Hours is just you see a person so full of life, and it all came down to a chance meeting and a Snapchat connection. Like it just breaks my heart. And her mom has become an advocate and she is now working with organizations. She is doing so much to just make sure that her daughter's legacy is remembered. And, I saw in an interview, she said, I just want to make her proud of me. And it just fucking breaks my heart. Um, so that was my case this week. Two local Washington cases, one solved, one unsolved. We'll be back next week. New episodes always come out on Mondays. Follow us on Instagram at Murder Not Murdering. You can also go to our TikTok, m&m.pod. We
And
have
our
a
subreddit,
subreddit,
Murder Not
which is,
Murdering.
yes, Murder Not Murdering. We also have a website. It's murdernotmurdering.riverside.com. That will take you to all the links of all the places you can find our podcast. You can listen to it right there directly, or we're on a lot of platforms. So check that out. And we're going to be back again next week. Thank you so much for listening to us. Bye.
Bye.